Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone. So, thanks for coming the session, the first session, I think. Fine. We will start the session. Good morning again. Thank you, everyone, for joining this particular session. To start with, the particular session is with respect to MLOps, right? Everyone has been familiar with the concept of DevOps, the industry, how DevOps has been. And just addition to that with the respective new trend, or I can say the existing on beyond DevOps with respect to AML is the MLOps one. And the session we will be covering is how you can build your scalable notebooks that you use for your prototyping and everything and take it to the production level. So I have a co-speaker, but unfortunately due to last minute emergency, he is not able to join us. But basically we both are the speakers for this particular talk, so we will be presenting that. So a small introduction about myself. So I am Raghu Reddy, working as a lead data platform engineer with Reserve Group. It's a FMA business-based company based out of Berlin, and I have a few certifications. Also a part of called CNCF Hyderabad chapter. So all this Hyderabad event, Atul, I along work with him with respect to all the voluntary part, and also AWS community builder. So apart from that, my role so far in 10 years of industry that I have been purely into DevOps, SRE or platform engineering. So the last 6 months is the journey where I started moving from platform engineering into a MLOps engineer. So where traditionally started with DevOps, everything, then with the new opportunity where I will be, this particular company with Razor, like lead data, so I will be working on the ML transition. So this particular session is to have an introduction how, or basically like you have your own notebooks running and how you can take it to the production or leverage the Kubernetes orchestration that we already have in our ecosystem. And a very to start with, I have a friend called Cypher. Like we will try to meet him and we'll try to see what's his problem and everything. We'll try to understand his overview. Then we'll try to provide some solution for that and see how it goes from there. So the name of that imaginary friend is called Cypher. I really like that particular name. To start with, Cypher. So they can be cover the problem, then the solution, then few benefits out of that. We will have a small demo, then how the pipelines of will look like. In the between, we will decide which tool that we will be going through, and few benefits we will streamline, and as well as a few Q&A. I have a Q&A slide, a different one this time. So let's meet Cypher. So engineer's dilemma, like Cypher current reality. So when I say Cypher, like what is day-to-day, right? He says like, he will say ML models. It's very amazing for day-to-day work he do. Like he goes to the job and starts building. Now, when you say building an ML model, right, he uses a local Jupyter, which says like, he is too amazing, like I can build any model, like I am very good at that. I said, good, great, gets great result in his local environment. Like he can do anything, he has a good laptop and everything, it works fine for him. But the problem comes is like being a data side, not having the experience on the infrastructure side, where probably the MLOps side, he faces difficulties where the deployment happens. Either he has to take it, copy paste it, or he doesn't have aware of that. Repeats manual process every time. So since a developer, data engineer, so that's what one of the more problem that he's facing. And the major one that I see, and he's also concerned and everyone is concerned, is there is no proper versioning and tracking. So the whatever model he builds, he just tries to run on his Jupyter, it works perfectly. He makes some changes, he saves the file, and again he runs and it works, and he's not able to track it back, version it, and all those particular. There's a major concern that apart from all this particular he has. So before going into the next topic or considering the problem statement of this particular, we'd like to have a very small one slide poll, which is how do you currently deploy your ML models? Anyone in the audience like have your ML models and trying to deploy to the production? Anyone? Yeah, so SageMaker is a solution which is good, ultimate solution, but I don't want to say, but it's a good solution. Fine. So I have 4 options for you, like, or you might be exploring in future, right? You want to have transition from DevOps to MLOps like I am doing, or you already have an MLOps team or building an MLOps culture within your organization, right? So what are the options that you have? You can copy the notebook code to production, just copy it the way you used to do in the terms of the normal deployment. Manual scripts, lot of pair, it happens. Today also we do some manual scripting everywhere. Some automation, it works, but we know somewhere it might break. Automation is not purely there. And the last one, which is about this particular session, is a fully automated CI/CD pipeline. Beautiful. Takes time, but trust me, it's the beauty that we have, the velocity, the time to market, everything can be achieved using the CI/CD. In these terms, is nothing but an MLOps for our context. The problem, the notebook. I really want to put the notebook as an villain here. Like, notebooks are good for developers, but for me, for this particular session, to make it interactive, I really hate the notebook. A very simple notebook. It's not something I tested. I just asked Claude to give me a sample so that I can paste it here. He has given me that particular code. It works on my machine. So either it might be a DevOps, MLOps, or any of that particular ecosystem or the culture, right? Everywhere it's the same problem. DevOps, we say it's the artifact that runs on my machine. MLOps, my model is running on my machine, or the data set is validation on my machine. Manual experiment, tracking, bit of difficult. People used to have Excels, notepads, anything that they feel. Deployment is slow. Anyways, that's how the entire ecosystem is. No collaborative capabilities. Unable to reproduce. As I said, like, I also, when I was trying to create a local notebook file, Jupyter file, I tried a lot of changes and saved it, and I remembered, okay, which was that particular change that was working. You can do a git commit, that's absolutely working fine, but again, for a development point. And the last and the main one, which I said, like, no version control for models or experiment. Solution, so we have SageMaker. You mentioned SageMaker. So the problem with SageMaker, not a problem, but the one as an industry point of view is like SageMaker is an AWS proprietary service. So you are kind of coupled with the AWS service. But what if your entire ecosystem is based out of Kubernetes, or you don't want that vendor lock-in happen? So one of the tools that we will try to see is the Kubeflow. Now what the Kubeflow does is the same that it will help you to orchestrate, version it, artifact store it, look into all the jobs that you are looking. So imagine, it's not exactly like Jenkins, but imagine that's where you go and see, and you can do the entire orchestration of your pipelines, build it, model it, push it to the artifact registry, deploy it, and then download it, and then deploy it to any of your endpoints or anything. So it has a bundle of everything that you need to do. So when you look at a Jenkins, right, it just does the CI, and you have to use all the plugins that you have. Kubeflow has all those particular components built in on top of it. There is one more which is called MLFlow. MLFlow is basically for, it can also be part of the ecosystem where you say you have your experiment tracking and comparison you can do, model registry. Argo workflows. So Kubeflow somewhere required, or Kubeflow basically need an Argo to run. So Argo workflows are nothing but where you submit your job, the data set and everything. It performs the entire task and gives you the output that you are looking for. And the last one, there are a few more components, but I only covered this one. The last one is the one Kser, which I feel which is part of the ecosystem that helps me to deploy my model onto the Kubernetes cluster itself without going out of that particular ecosystem, like having a separate in any of the service that I don't want to use. So benefits, just before going in any doubts or anything that you want to have before on this so far topics. So Kubeflow is an entirely orchestration tool that you can use, and that's natively on Kubernetes. MLFlow is same, but you don't have all the features that are part of the Kubeflow. I will show you the dashboard where you can see everything. So you can have your Kser part of your Kubeflow, but MLFlow is like you can have your for integration. So, sorry. We'll start with the benefits. I will keep the Q&A for last, sorry for that. What we achieve, right? We achieve a reproducible experiments every time, like when we do anything. So simple, it's like the moment when you move your code base or the entire flows, steps of your build or anything to a systematic automated tool, then what you see is the benefits that you see on the screen, right? So you can reproduce. You can just go to any of your experiment and rerun it. You can look into that. You have all your tracking, automated workflows and deployments that we will see in the demo part. Scalable, since Kubeflow is integrated with the Kubernetes, right? On top of that, you deploy, you can easily scale it. So when I say scale it, right, when I will show in the demo, when I try to submit a specific pipeline to the Kubeflow, it will try to deploy, or it will try to run all that particular jobs, and that will be running independently in the Kubernetes ecosystem. So scalable, you don't have to manage and sit and say, okay, I need to spin up and everything. It can be taken care. Collaborative platform for teams. again, you just go to dashboard, you see, okay, this is the version that was deployed, or this is the version that is currently built. You take it, model, tune it, and you can use this for your testing purpose or validation purpose. We'll start with the demo. I have still 20 minutes left. So before going to the demo, I have a very small file which is not written by me, by the way. I assume it's visible, at least. Fine. So this is a small file. So I started with experimentation where I said, like, I want to build a Kubeflow and I want to have a pipeline for myself where I will do a train a model. It will do some prediction and it will give a result. Then I asked the same to Claude and said, okay, give me a notebook file out of it, like convert that and give me so that I can show for the demo purpose. So usually, typically, this is how it will look like, but anyone says like this is not the way, please correct me. But usually you have all your cells created and each cell will have its set of program or a function that you want to run, and that's are independent with your entire cell. So you can have, so what I'm just trying to do is, like, if you look at this, I'm just trying to have some directives created, then do a data preparation, which basically this what I'm doing is I'm taking few inputs which says like these are the texts that you will see, and based on that predict or tell the sentiment whether whatever the input that is, whether it's a good or bad. So some data preparation that I'm doing for the sentiment, I'm using like 0-1, a basic data, it's not cleaning, but it's something called as in the data where you prepare the data where you says like to avoid that huge data, you just replace that values with the binary number so that it will reduce and give you more efficiency. So I'm just doing the data preparation, and after that feature engineering, I will just do and tell, okay, this is the data that I need to load, and as well as have some, this basically is trying to avoid, say, like, I don't want to use or skip the words like the, is, and all these words which are not required for my model preparation. I'm just trying to avoid or skip them. Then doing the training the model, then going with evaluating whatever the data set that I have, and the last, or I think second last, is like a small visualization. And if any test case you want to run it on top of that, and what I'm doing at the end is just trying to create artifact. When I say list artifact, basically all the models that got created, I want to see that what was the model name and path where it exists. So just a user-friendly interface. So this is how it looks out day to day. I think people usually, all the engineers in my company use SageMaker, and what they do is they open their Jupyter notebook and they run in the cell one by one every day. So this is how they look, but instead of SageMaker, I just use a VS Code where we can see this particular context. And what we are trying to do is, like, I just will show you the code that will be converted. So I have 3 versions, and the versions are not different. Those are like related. I just keep on adding one more additional stage that I felt, okay, from the here I want to go there. So this particular is again the same, which says prepared data. Right. So, but in this context, right, if you go with the Kubeflow, a very Kubeflow level, right, you will have your own programming, which is called KPF, which is Kubeflow pipelines. You will define your components, pipelines, all this particular set that you want to say as a Python function, and you will try to run them at the main function of yours. So component is nothing but it tells you what is the environment that you need. Just imagine kind of a virtual environment that you create. So before starting my particular specific task or step, this is what I need. So I need a base image of this as well as all this particular. So there are different types of component. Like, so for now we are just sticking to this particular context. And then I start my simple write. So if you look at this particular change, so what I'm doing is like I am having a specific stage stating that I will just try to prepare the data at the same context. Then there is one more component where I am using just for the feature engineering. I just converted all that particular notebook code that was written by a developer into a Kubeflow file, so that out of that I will create a pipeline. And that pipeline I will submit to the Kubeflow and say, like, now you start your orchestration, or you tell me what are the steps that you want to run. And model training, this is where I see training the model. Also, I'm trying to save that particular model. So if you just select this, these are the few Python library that created object and trying to dump that particular models that I created. There will be 2 models. Then model evaluation happens. Then it goes to the pipeline. So till here is what I defined the steps or the logic of the code that I want to do. All the validation, data cleaning and everything. Then now the actual pipeline start. What should be the pipeline do to me? Like I just named it description. Now the pipeline states like, now this pipeline can be like, what I did is I written everything in a single file, but you can segregate into a different files from a different repos, and each service owner will have their own responsibility, like data cleaning. So there will be a separate stage like where the data cleaning team will do this entire data cleaning, and I will try to call that particular from here pipeline. So for demo purpose, it is a single file. You can have it in a separate files or in a separate repos also. And I just trying to call that function in a Python simple. And the one thing that need to be taken, or that what I did is like, all that particular inputs in the previous stage, I'm just taking this output and passing it to my next stage. So if you look this feature X and Y, and this is where I evaluate model. Now everything looks fine. It's a working code, I will show you. Now all of a sudden Cypher came to me and said, okay, this is fine. I do had a stage where task or step where I was doing all the validation of the artifacts, list artifacts. I said, yeah, I can do that. So how difficult or how like you want to start using Kubeflow in your day-to-day life? So I will say, what I did is like out of that, I went to another file, I just tried, added a new code. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping the prepared data as it is. I'm not touching extract feature, train model as it is, and evaluate model also. Then I'm going to verify model. It's again the same, I'm just keeping. Sorry, this is the code. Yeah. So what I'm just trying to do is I just added a code block says, okay, there's a component that I need. If you look at that component, I just need a skit learn. I don't need panda or anything. It's just a validation. And out of that, I try to just load that particular model and check if it's properly the type and everything I'm trying to display, and then dump it and check the probability all of it. So it's just one more stage that I added. Imagine this can be a stage created by some engineer in a separate repo. I just want to incorporate in my pipeline. I can simply do that. And at the end of my pipeline, I will just try to do a verify that model, whatever. And I just made one condition stating that this particular step the stage should run only after the evaluation task. Or else what will happen, a parallel threads will open or parallel pods will open and it will spin up or it will try to process. So you can also do this in your Kubeflow pipelines. And at the end is I'm just trying to do this. And one more, so this is version 1 to version 2. I have version 3, which is again, one more what I'm doing out of that, after validating, some of engineer came and said like, okay, can we host or can we deploy these particular models so that end users can start using them? I said we can do that, but it required few more additional steps. To save the time, what I did is I created a Docker container. So I created a very simple Docker container where I just added a predictor.python, a simple file which will do the API calls kind of. And I did a Docker build and I pushed that to one ECR repository. The image is ready. We are not, that's not part of the demo. The image is ready. But what we are trying to do is in the latest version, sorry. So this is the latest stage that I added. I said, okay, I need something more now. Now what I'm doing, I'm trying to have my Kubernetes as well as YAML file and the same package that we require. And then I say, I just defined like this are all the inputs and outputs. So this is the input that I will be taking from the upper stages, all that. And at the end, I will give as an output, which is a deployment status, whatever it runs. And I did my basic, I tried to load all the configuration and everything. Now here comes the Kubernetes part where simply what I'm doing is I'm trying to check a namespace, and if not create it, config, create it, and what at the end is simple deployment inference service. So this is something new I'm also learning. It's kind of a service or a feature where you can host your endpoints for your models so that it can test and do the kind of a championship models that we do for the testing purpose, all those. And what I'm simply doing is I'm just selling all this, but this is the image that I told where it will try to pull it and mod it, and at the end I will just trying to deploy it, and I say just check if status is fine or wait it and just try to retry, and there will be a service that will be created with this particular. I will just try to get that as a details, and return me the deployment result. And at the end, if I go and look at my pipeline, I'm just adding one more, like, okay, I will just do a deployment, but just make sure that it happens after verify task. So what we are trying to do is the Kubeflow entire ecosystem is basically we are trying to do an orchestration where initially the DevOps, right, where you used to do the same set of steps, but in a different manner. You build it, you do a SonarQube integration and everything. With Kubeflow, you can have your MLOps pipeline where you have all the stages tested and running. So for demo, we will quickly, okay. I'm struggling. Is the screen visible? To the, no, okay. So I just activated or basically a virtual environment for myself. And what I will do is once this particular pipeline is ready, I will just go to my pipelines and I will just say Python and I will go with sentiment version 3, right? And before that, I will just try to rename it as old. And I will just run it. What it will do is it will go through this entire pipeline and it will get converted to a YAML file, which we will just try to give to the Kubeflow. And there is one additional step that you can do, which is not part of the demo. This can be also automated in the your CI/CD pipeline or the ML's pipeline, where the moment when you push something, it will trigger, it will create that YAML file, and your GitOps or Argo can pick that YAML file and deploy it to your Kubeflow. So that can be also automated. So a new file got created. So this is that particular file which recently got created. It's just an YAML file in the context of Kubeflow that it understands what need to be done in the order of sequence and everything. Now for demo, kind of. So you can see all the CRDs or CRs in the Kubernetes also, it's present. So installation takes like, for me, I will say like this maturity, I have a slide for to cover, but understand that Kubeflow is not something that you can do like on day one. The maturity takes a lot of time, because for me, just to show you, for just having I have experience in Kubernetes, AWS and everything, but setting this up with all this particular to make it functional, I had to go through with this all of errors one by one. So after I do something, I get one more error. So all this particular configuration, so it's not just straightforward, but again, it will take some time for the maturity. Now what I'm trying to do is in the pipelines, I already have all the pipelines. So I will just go and say upload pipeline. I will just name is as KCD demo 2025. Then I will say I have a file, but as I said, right, this can be also automated. You can use the Kubeflow APIs, or you can integrate that with your pipeline. This is that particular file which just got created, and I will say just create it. It will do a validation, and you can see a beautiful view that happens, what is happening and everything. So if you remember, right, so I added after, that's why, because it came in here. Otherwise it will be parallel threads. Now I will just try to create run. You need for running this particular pipeline, you need something called as an experiment. It's kind of an logical isolation where you can keep all your pipelines. So keeping this as it is, I will choose, I will say, next, and I will just try and start it. It will run now. It will take time. In the meantime, what we can do is we can go to the Kubernetes cluster that I already have. So this is an open lens that I'm using. So if you look at this particular containers over here, you will see this getting started like seconds back. The moment when I submitted that, the Kubeflow got in trigger and it started creating its respective jobs or pods for that particular, and it's running there. And you can say with every stage that it completes, it creates a new one and it gets completed. Telling very upfront, this particular stage of deployment will not work. The reason is the K-serve endpoint, there are some configuration changes that needed for that, and I was not able to figure that out. But what will happen, I will show you. So let this happen, and what will happen is if I go to this particular CRDs which you are mentioning, I think it's not. So under your serving CRD, you will have something called as inference service. It will create this particular inference service, and this service is not getting ready, but it will create that particular service in your service section, which will kind of be an endpoint for your models that you can host and you can start experiment. Or else one more option is you can also, K-serve is the component that is part of the Kubeflow ecosystem, but it's not mandated that you should use K-serve only. You can go out of it, you can have your own endpoints where you want to host it, SageMaker or any other service providers, they can also, you can be part of that. So I'm finally done. So this is where this entire step's done. And now what the benefit that I see is, if I go and a particular stage and say like, I can see what's happened, that this is my trained model, and this is my vectorized model, and I have the artifacts, deployment status, everything. Kind of a tracking that I can see, like any developers who commits, I can just go the same way I used to go to the Jenkins and get it. I can even get a logs, for this is not showing, but it will tell me all the logs that's happening in that particular. And if you want to see that particular run, you can also push it to your artifacts. Your artifacts, you can just come and see all the artifacts that are executed for each of that particular task. And these are the runs that you can see which ran and go through that. So you do have a tracking now. So this was the previous one. This is the one that I just ran executed. So if I open one of these, okay, logs we are not getting, but I can just simply click on this and it will help me to download. It's a PK, the same model format that got created. So going back to the demo, so this is how the Kubeflow, you have a lot of, the notebooks is nothing but the Jupyter where you can have your own notebooks hosted in the Kubeflow part. The configuration, as I said, it's not that straightforward for a maturity to have in an organization, but it's a very good start where you want to go to some orchestration where you have already your ML models. You don't know, Kubeflow can be a good start. Learning is a big curve that one should be considered before going into this particular tool. I hope it was useful demo that we can see something. Before and after transformation, so not fully realistic. This is something that I shared as an input and told give me. Just remember the after pipelines, the deployment is never 5 minutes. Don't trust this. I added, but I want to tell that upfront because when you go with an ML models, training and everything, the deployment cannot happen in 5 minutes. It usually takes, at least with a very maturity, it will take at least 15 to 30 minutes. But this is the image that I got and I added. I haven't got the chance to update it, but usually it will take 15 to 30 minutes. Rest can be, yes, deployment time totally depends, like it's a fully automated, you don't have to worry, 30 minutes fine. Reproducibility is there. Tracking, experiment trackings, you can use MLFlow along with the dashboards. You can have that collaboration. Anyways, you will get monitoring. We haven't considered, but you can integrate all the monitorings with your AML components. Maintenance, CI/CD is good. Resource usage is auto-scaling. As I showed you, all the pods were getting auto-created. So it will take care. You can also have your GPU machines created, and you can have your labels, node selectors created so that a specific model can run on a specific GPU, and all this can be taken care. And the last one is security, which is like integrated. Like if you go with this particular, you can have your own security integrated. So right now I see Cypher is, transformation is complete for me as a demo purpose. Few takeaways is like keep Jupyter for exploration and prototyping to your machine, which is good. Experiment tracking equal to sanity and career saved. Like if you consider this as from a data science perspective, collaboration without any conflicts, focus on model, not on infrastructure. That's the main thing. Like the last stage which I added for K-serve, I can take care of that, and the data engineers can take care of the rest of the data training, modeling, and everything. As an ML engineer, it's basically GitOps work beautifully. So I can integrate this entire CI/CD, and I don't have to worry about the manual changes and everything. Infrastructure code, automation, all these are part. Few resources that you can go through, which the official, it's part of the CNCF landscape. Few questions I just tried to add. The one which I really want to cover is the last and the second last. So as I said, the adoption is too simple. I just created it in like 2 days back, and I can start using everything, but making it a proper landing zone or landing zone tool for your organization will typically take 4 to 8 weeks with all those particular proper automation, Terraform and everything. And to make it a full mature, it will take it's actually within 6 months you can have multiple services onboarded and having a maturity. And initially it will be a high setup, but once you do the performance tuning and everything, you can really have a cost effective since you already have your Kubernetes ecosystem. I will just take 1 minute. As I said, I was part of the CNCF Hyderabad. So we do for the KubeCon, it's happening in August 6 and 7. Please do visit us. There are coupons for that. You can take a screenshot, which you can use, and you will get a discount for that. Thank you. I'll just keep this slide for you. You can take a photo of this one in the meantime. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.